Okay, welcome back. So we're down at the creek. If you haven't been in before, just at the edge of the school here. We're down where the opening is to the tunnels. There's a nice amount of water here today, which is nice considering we haven't had any rain. Environmental engineering factors about this creek. So it's pretty much a man-made creek now, just because we've got so much concrete here. We've got a system running underneath the school oval, and apparently this rock chicken wire sort of adaptation is fairly recent, within the last few years. Hello, Ibis. So this is a erosion factor, which means that they've obviously had a problem with heavy rainfall, heavy flow of water deteriorating the banks. So it's excellent that they've put in this rock wall feature, just because it's a low cost, low maintenance thing, but it also isn't as bad for the environment as something like this heavy concrete is. Other factors that we've got, it's really cool that they've kept a lot of this reed and trees here to help filter and funnel the water as the creek flows through. It's important to have these sorts of features, just because when we get heavy rainfall and we get big rainfall events that wash all sorts of chemicals, but also litter, straight into the waterway, we have fantastic things like these reeds that help filter that water before it enters the creek system and it flows onto another body of water. It's going to be hard to see through my focusless camera, but there's quite a lot of scum on the surface of the water today. Something you can point out to the kids. Scum can be from different things, whether it be algae, whether it be from a chemical in the water. Either way, it could be good or bad. There is heaps of animal life down here, as we saw Mr. Ibis. As you walk along the creek, there will be plenty of little water dragons, big and small. I know last year we saw two different types of duck, which is the wood duck and the Pacific black duck. They were pretty cool. You'll hear plenty of different types of birds, kookaburras, lorikeets, cockatoos, depending on the time of day as well. As we walk along the creek here, there's still quite a bit of water in there, which is nice. It's quite a lot of rubbish too. Please let the kids know to be cautious with this environment as well. Like, it's not something they need to run through, obviously. At the moment there's actually plenty of macroinvertebrates and dragonflies and things running along the surface of the water, which isn't easy to see with this camera. But there's plenty of life in this creek at the moment, which is really nice. So as we come down here a little bit more, so I'm just at the little bridge here. As we look into the creek, there is heaps of algae all over the stones within the water. Again, you're not going to be able to see through this camera, it's a bit shit. Which means, again, there's plenty of life in the creek, especially in the water. And I've just noticed, which again you're not going to be able to see, there's a water dragon sitting over there sunbaking. There's also quite a lot of weed around him, a lot of debris. So the bank on the other side doesn't have this rock and chicken wire fencing structure, and you can see that all the dirt has been moved around and all the grass has been moved around. So this rock feature is definitely a good adaptation for the creek. What Brisbane City Council attempted to do, I don't know. So we're going to keep walking. One thing you can also note is on a lot of the stones along here, there's a thing we call lichen, which is like, it looks sort of like a spiral pastel pattern on stones. It's like a microbial growth. You can also find it a lot of trees and things. Again, it's really a good indication that there's lots of microbes present. I'm hearing a lot of rustling in the bushes, which means there's plenty of water dragons around. So, coming down to the weir, again, another really heavy concrete structure. So there's quite a lot of water in here, which is really excellent to see. And as we go down here a bit further, we've got like a little mini pond. So for me, this would be the big pond and our little mini pond down the bottom here. At some point I'll take a dissolved oxygen reading from the big pond and of the little pond, and I'll send it around to everyone. The labbies can't be down here with the classes, unfortunately. But I'll send that information around. If you're confident enough to use the Pasco stuff, it's going to be a teacher only thing, the dissolved oxygen reading, but even still, I'm just going to take a reading and send it around to everyone, and you can pass that on to your students. Obviously, we're going to have a lower dissolved oxygen reader at the top than at the bottom, and that's just because of the aeration happening in our little water trickle down here. And you can see that just by all the bubbles that are being incorporated into the water system as it's entering the lower pond. There should be fish in this lower pond. They're only small, they're little guppy sized things. You can use the fish chart to try and identify them if you can. The kids will spend the entire lesson trying to catch them. They did last year. I know under some of the smaller rocks, the pebbles down here in the creek, there are some macroinvertebrates sitting under them, something like a worm or a little leech or something like that some kids found last year. I wouldn't worry too much about going further on beyond this point. But the last thing I'm going to do is teach you guys how to find macroinvertebrates to show your students. Hopefully without falling into the creek. So macroinvertebrates, like your damselflies and your mayflies and your mosquito larvae, they all start by living their lives in water before growing up, sitting onto a rock, drying out, and then flying off and becoming things like your dragonflies, which are of course your damselflies and mayflies. There's all sorts of species and definition, but we all just call them dragonflies. So what you would do, if you were confident enough, is come down to the water's edge, and they typically nest in these reeds. They like the shade, they like the nutrients, they like the root system. So with me I have a bucket, preferably a white one because you'll be able to see them easier once you catch them, and I have a net. So this is one of the larger nets, but if you want to try with some of the other ones, you certainly can. Not too much of a difference. So all you need to do with your net is just simply dunk it in, go up and down near the root systems, near the banks, and hopefully you'll catch something. And something that I haven't done already is put a little bit of water into the bucket for anything that I have come up. So, there we go. Let's see what we've caught. So there's a couple of little things swimming around. We've got a water strider, which is pretty cool. Or it could be a spider, and I could potentially be drowning it. I apologise. There's also quite a few little things in there which you could use the pipettes and try and get a closer look at. So I'll let that go for the moment, and I'm going to go into the reeds here. So just looking here, I do have a couple of mosquito larvae, little wriggly worm things. By the looks of it, I haven't got any damselflies. You'll pick them up pretty instantly because they look like a water scorpion. They're really obvious, and they'll either be like an orangey colour or a greeny sort of colour. So I've got this guy here. He's a little water swimmer, little water boat. They're pretty cute. You can see him running around there. And a little type of water beetle. And that's about all that's really interesting here. Actually, I think, yes, I've got me a little mayfly or damselfly. This guy, it's going to be very difficult to see. Just in front of my finger here. He's sitting on the very bottom here, but he's got multiple legs. He's got a long tail, and it can look like a mozzie larvae, but there he is in the corner. Pretty cute. So these are the sorts of things you can catch. The thing you got to keep in mind is to be really delicate and careful, because these are obviously little creatures. So to put him back in, you just tip him in. I'll just rinse the bucket out to make sure they're all in the water. It's as simple as that. And with that you can get a really good index of your macroinvertebrate chart, which is in your Sandy Creek booklet. And with that, that is all for the creek. If you have any questions, again, just email us and we'll try and do our best. Thank you.